We live in an era where lies have become more comfortable than truth, where millions of people deliberately choose to believe in illusions because reality has become too unbearable to face. Have you ever noticed how our society has developed an insatiable thirst for narratives that make us feel good, even when we know deep down that we're deceiving ourselves? Stop for a moment and observe the world around you. We are witnessing something unprecedented in human history: the democratization of lies. I'm not just talking about fake news or political disinformation. I'm talking about something much deeper and more disturbing. We are witnessing the emergence of a new form of collective reality where truth is no longer discovered, but rather constructed, molded, and sold as a consumer product. Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone genuinely changing their mind after being confronted with facts that contradicted their beliefs? When was the last time you did it yourself? We live in an age where people don't seek information to inform themselves, but rather to confirm themselves. We seek data that validates what we already believe and systematically ignore everything that challenges our worldview. Aristotle once said that knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, but we live in an era where knowing yourself has become the most frightening thing anyone can do. It's easier to live in illusion than to face the brutal complexity of reality. And our society doesn't just allow this, it profits from it. Look at social media, those diabolical algorithms that feed us exactly what we want to hear. They weren't created to inform us, they were created to addict us. Every like, every share, every comment is a dose of dopamine that keeps us trapped in increasingly smaller and more extreme confirmation bubbles. We are literally paying to be deceived, and the worst part is that we know it. The great tragedy of our time is not that we are ignorant, it's that we choose to be ignorant. We have access to more information than any previous generation, but we prefer to use this powerful tool to create more sophisticated versions of our own lies. It's like having an infinite library and using the books only to make fires that warm us in our caves of illusion. But why is this happening? Why is a species that evolved to survive through adaptation to reality now consciously choosing to live in collective fantasies? The answer is more disturbing than you can imagine, and it reveals something fundamental about human nature that we'd rather keep hidden. Have you ever caught yourself defending something that deep in your heart you knew wasn't completely true? Have you ever felt that strange discomfort when someone presents evidence that contradicts something you believe fervently? This feeling has a name: cognitive dissonance, and it's at the root of everything we're discussing. We've all been through this. I have too. It's that moment when your mind splits in two, one part that recognizes the truth and another that desperately refuses to accept it. It's as if there's a civil war happening inside your head, and most of the time, the side that wins isn't reason, it's emotional comfort. I remember once, years ago, when I discovered that someone I deeply admired had done something morally questionable. My first reaction wasn't to reevaluate my admiration for them. It was to desperately search for ways to discredit the information, to find loopholes in the story, to keep intact my idealized image of that person. It took me months to process the truth, and I only managed to do it when I finally understood that my relationship with reality was more important than my need for emotional comfort. But not everyone makes that choice. In fact, most don't. And it's not because they're bad or stupid people, it's because facing the truth requires a brutal courage that our society doesn't teach us to develop. From childhood, we're taught that there are certain truths we shouldn't question, certain beliefs that are too sacred to be examined, certain narratives that are too important to be challenged. Think about your own life. How many times have you chosen the comfortable lie instead of the uncomfortable truth? How many times have you pretended not to see something obvious because acknowledging it would change everything? How many times have you clung to a convenient explanation because the alternative was admitting you were wrong about something fundamental? We all do this. It's human. It's natural. But the problem arises when this individual tendency becomes a collective phenomenon, when entire societies begin to operate based on shared lies. And that's exactly what's happening around us. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss this journey of discovery that could completely change your relationship with truth. Now I'm going to tell you something that might sound controversial, but which is essential for understanding where we are. Truth has never really been what mattered most to human beings. What has always mattered was survival. And sometimes surviving means believing in lies. Think about our ancestors. If you were a hunter-gatherer 50,000 years ago and heard a noise in the forest, it was better to assume it was a dangerous predator than to investigate whether it really was. Even though most of the time it was just the wind, those who erred on the side of paranoia survived to pass their genes forward. Natural selection favored not the most accurate, but the most cautious. This same tendency that kept us alive for millennia is now slowly killing us. We live in a world where real dangers are subtle and complex. Climate change, systemic inequality, democratic erosion. But our brains are still programmed to react to simple and immediate threats. So we create fictional threats that we can understand and fight, ignoring the real ones that are too complex to process emotionally. Carl Jung realized this a century ago when he said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. What he was describing was projection, our tendency to throw our own fears, desires, and inadequacies onto others. And now, with modern technology, we can do this on an industrial scale. Each political group projects its own shadows onto the opposing group. Each social movement projects its own fears onto the enemy it chooses to fight. Each person projects their own internal confusion onto the external world, creating simple narratives to explain complex problems. It's easier to believe that there's a specific villain responsible for all our problems than to accept that we live in a complex system where we are all simultaneously victims and perpetrators. But here's the liberating part. Once you understand this mechanism, you can begin to free yourself from it. The first question you should ask when you feel extremely convinced of something is, what in me is being threatened by this information? The second question is even more powerful. If I were wrong about this, how would I know? These are dangerous questions. They can tear down entire castles of beliefs that you've built over years. They can force you to admit that people you considered enemies might have valid points. They can compel you to recognize that you yourself might be contributing to problems you believe you're fighting against. But that's exactly why they're transformative. Because the moment you stop defending your beliefs and start examining them, you become free. Free to change your mind, free to grow, free to relate to reality in a more honest and courageous way. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said something that resonates through the centuries. It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. What he was teaching us is that our experience of reality is mediated by our interpretations, and these interpretations are choices we make, consciously or not. You can choose to interpret challenging information as personal attacks, or you can interpret it as opportunities for growth. You can choose to see people who disagree with you as enemies, or you can see them as teachers, offering perspectives you haven't yet considered. You can choose to defend your current beliefs as if they were your own identity, or you can treat them as working hypotheses that are always open to revision. But there's an even deeper secret that few know. Something that can completely change your relationship, not only with truth, but with life itself. Here's the revelation that might seem paradoxical, but which is profoundly liberating. You will never have access to absolute truth about anything, never, and this is the most beautiful and liberating thing you can accept. Think about it. You will never know all the facts about any situation. You will never have complete access to other people's thoughts and motivations. You will never fully understand even your own deepest impulses and desires. You are navigating through life with incomplete information, limited perspectives, and a brain that evolved to make quick decisions on African savannas, not to process the complexity of the modern world. And you know what this means? It means that intellectual humility is not just a virtue. It's an existential necessity. It means that "I do not know" can be the most honest and courageous answer you can give to most of life's important questions. It means that holding your opinions lightly, like birds that can fly away when necessary, is wiser than gripping them with clenched fists as if they were treasures that define who you are. But our society has taught us to fear uncertainty. It has taught us that admitting ignorance is a sign of weakness. It has taught us that changing our minds is a sign of inconsistency. It has taught us that saying, "I don't know," is admitting incompetence. And that's exactly why we're trapped in these bubbles of false certainty that prevent us from growing. Physicist Richard Feynman, one of the greatest scientists of the 20th century, said something that should be taught in every school. "I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned." He understood that genuine curiosity is more valuable than false certainty, that wonder at mystery is more productive than the pretense of knowledge. When you deeply accept your own fundamental ignorance, something magical happens. You become genuinely curious about the world. You stop looking for information to confirm what you already believe, and start looking for information to discover what you don't yet know. You stop seeing conversations as battles to be won and start seeing them as collaborative explorations of reality. And here's the final paradox. It's precisely when you accept that you know nothing that you become capable of learning anything. It's when you admit you might be wrong about everything that you become capable of being right about some things. It's when you release your need to have all the answers that you become capable of asking the right questions. This is the truth that our age of disinformation doesn't want you to discover. Liberation doesn't come from finding absolute truth, but from accepting relative uncertainty. Wisdom doesn't come from accumulating certainties, but from navigating elegantly through doubt. Strength doesn't come from defending your beliefs, but from keeping them open to transformation. So here we are, at the end of this journey of reflection, and maybe you're wondering if truth is so elusive, if we're all navigating in darkness with incomplete information, what's the point of trying to be more honest with yourself and the world? The point is this: even if we never reach absolute truth, we can get closer and closer to it. Even if we never see reality completely, we can gradually clean the lenses through which we observe it. Even if we never free ourselves completely from our illusions, we can become increasingly aware of them. The journey toward truth is not about reaching a final destination where all questions are answered. It's about becoming the kind of person who asks better questions, who embraces complexity instead of simplifying it, who chooses intellectual humility instead of ignorant arrogance. In a world where everyone is shouting their certainties, be the person who whispers their doubts. In an age where everyone is defending their ideological territories, be the one who explores the frontiers. In a society that rewards conformity of thought, be the one who cultivates intellectual independence. Truth may no longer matter to the collective, but it can still matter to you. And when it matters to individuals courageous enough to seek it, even knowing they will never find it completely, these individuals become beacons in the darkness, points of light that remind others that there is an alternative to collective delusion. You can be that beacon. You can be that light. You can be the person who chooses uncomfortable honesty instead of comfortable lies, courageous uncertainty instead of false certainty, genuine curiosity instead of lazy dogmatism. The world needs people like that. It needs you. If this message touched something deep in you, if it awakened a hunger for greater authenticity in your relationship with truth, then become part of this community of seekers. Click like so more people can find this reflection. Subscribe so we can continue together on this journey of questioning and growth, and share this video with someone you know is ready to question their own certainties. Because the most important revolution we can make is not external, it's internal. And it begins the moment you decide that your relationship with truth is more important than your need to be right.